Let's bake banana bread using saging na saba or native bananas. This banana bread is relatively known as one of the easiest baking recipes out there. Why? Because all of the ingredients are easy peasy to get your hands on, and also they are inexpensive. So there are the ingredients. Pag-screenshot nyo na lang, guys. Now, let's start by preheating the oven to 180 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And then we're going to prepare our pot. Lightly oil the pan and arrange a strip of parchment paper with just a bit hanging over each side. This recipe calls for buttermilk, and since we don't have any, we're going to make our own. So I'm going to use evaporated milk and juice from a lemon. You can also use fresh milk here, and you can also use white vinegar if you don't have lemon. Now let's peel the ripe bananas and place them into a plate. We mash them well using a fork. You can use 3 to 4 bananas in this recipe. Actually, the best bananas for banana bread are overripe bananas. The blacker the banana, the sweeter and has more assertive flavor. Now let's mix the dry ingredients together using a large bowl. We add in 3 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1.5 cup of brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of coffee powder, and 1 teaspoon of cinnamon powder. We mix this together using a whisk. In another bowl, we're going to mix our wet ingredients. We add in 4 large size of eggs, 1 cup of buttermilk, plus 1/4 cup of regular milk, and 3/4 cup of canola or vegetable oil. Stir everything together just until mixed. And now we're going to mix the wet ingredients to the dry ingredients. Gently pour the wet ingredients into the dry ingredients while using a whisk to mix the batter. Just make sure to not over mix the batter. Why? Because as you mix, the gluten begins to develop, and when too much development happens, you can end up with a dense, chewy bread rather than the soft banana bread that you were hoping for. So in here, we can now add the mashed bananas and gently fold it in the batter. At this point, you can also fold in some chocolate chips to add more flavor and sweetness to the bread. I have here chocolate buttons, so it's what I'm going to add. Now let's transfer the batter into the prepared pan. I divided the batter into 2 8-inch square pans. After pouring it in, we tap the pan to remove air bubbles. So now we can add some toppings. You can skip this part if you want a plain banana bread, but I like it fancy, so I'm going to add some toppings. So I added more chocolate buttons there, some rolled oats, and some sunflower seeds. You can actually experiment with your toppings. You can add some raisins here, berries, or other nuts. Now, these are ready to be baked on a preheated oven over 180 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So we bake this for about 35 to 40 minutes. To check when it's done, you can use a toothpick or a fork, insert it at the center of the bread. When it comes out clean, it means that it's done. So we remove the pan from the oven and transfer it into a cooling rack. We allow the bread to cool for at least 15 minutes before we remove it from the pan. We can now slice and serve it while it's still warm. This banana bread can stay fresh for 3 to 4 days at room temperature. So if you think you can finish it within 4 days, you may not refrigerate it so that you can maintain quality at its best. But if you prefer your banana bread to be chilled, you can also put this in the fridge once it's cooled down into room temperature. Let me know if you have tried this recipe. Or if you have any questions or suggestions, you can always leave a comment in the comment section. Enjoy and happy cooking!